O once happy bauble, twisting on the bliss twig of ignoramy, you were suddenly plunged into the brain-tanglia of rude math, and with what shocking results? Has the Earth been reduced to an odious space gland? Is this what we've done to ourselves? Good Christ, I hope not.
After they suck everything out of them, they brain damage them with chemicals and then throw them out on the street. And if you don't like it, a SWAT team is going to break your jaw and knock your teeth out. And cops take your fluoride drinks as well and inject your children with mercury. You want the blessing too, don't you? I know all of this. I know they're spraying us every day. I know they're spraying my family. I know we're all filled with heavy metals. The UN says if you don't play ball with them, they'll just spray you and shut down your weather. I'm broken out of the trance. I'm angry. I'm freaked out. I'm going, my God, they're terraforming. My God, sodium fluoride in the water. My God, they funded Hitler. I understand what's going on. I read their eugenics documents. The hair on the back of my neck standing up right now. I want to warn you, they should all arrest them. Arrest the bankers. They're robbing. God, I can't believe it.
Wow, that was some good acting. Hey guys, how's it going? So you are probably not expecting me to say what I'm going to say in this video, but then again, I've never been one to blindly conform to any group, whether it be the mainstream or the conspiracy world. I've tried to get behind chemtrails, but being intellectually honest, I think there are just too many holes in the theory and very little, if any, proof. Now, I'm not claiming to know 100% what the actual truth is behind the misinformation, but then again, the burden of proof is not on me. The burden of proof lies with the person making the claim, especially when the claim instills fear in the population, and that claim in this case is that there is a worldwide campaign underway to spray humans with chemicals, metals, and other crazy items from fleets of high-flying planes. I know there's a lot of wacky stuff going on. I mean, look at the global political clown show, the space clown show, the science clown show, hoax events. Anything is possible, but I think it is important to remain grounded and not just accept things from either side, the mainstream or the gatekeeping conspiracy world. Believing a theory without intellectually attacking it is what has kept humans in this spinning ball space matrix for so long. There are plenty of government-created conspiracy theories out there that are designed for one thing only, and that is to confuse, gatekeep, and misdirect anyone who may question the narrative. That is why I think the chemtrail theory is dangerous. The fact that no truthers or flat earthers are attacking it is dangerous in my opinion. We should always attack every position, flat earth, fake space, nukes, dinosaurs. The truth will withstand scrutiny. There are no sacred cows when it comes to the truth. So, that's what I'm going to do today. I'm not going to address every single claim made by the chemtrail proponents. That would take forever, and it is an endless rabbit hole anyways. I am simply going to provide logical alternatives to the flimsy support used to justify the chemtrail hysteria. Even at chemtrailcentral.com, they admit that there is zero concrete proof for chemtrails. The main argument in support of chemtrails is the persistent contrails that do not dissipate quickly enough. These white trails that airplanes leave, supposedly ruining the skies and making everyone sick. That's it. That is the main pillar of the entire theory. The persistent contrails, or more accurately, condensation trails or vapor trails, as they were first referred to as early as 1920. So first, let's attack this misconception that these vapor trails that we see littering our sky are something new created by spraying chemicals haphazardly over the earth. If you search newspaper archives for vapor trail, you will find many examples of persistent vapor trails from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and so on. So to begin, we have this 1920s mention where a test pilot was flying his plane at an altitude of about 36,000 feet, and then something happened and it was losing altitude quickly. What happened was a vapor trail was created, and all of the onlookers had no idea what was going on. They thought it was a comet or some stranger from the heavens. So we have a mention already of the fact that vapor trails are created due to the pressure difference and the condensation, again in the 1920s. So moving on, we have January 27th, 1941, where it reads, I asked this pilot about one aspect of the beyond sight sky fighting which always interests the earthbound observer. That is the vapor trail that looks like smoke riding. You get it, he said, only in certain conditions. Of course, it has nothing to do with the exhaust. More often than not, it comes from wing tips. The fast-traveling machine, entering a moist layer of air, leaves behind it a reduced pressure, which causes condensation. When that occurs, a white trail becomes visible. So, 1941. Next we have January 2nd, 1944. We have mention of this pattern of vapor trails in the substratosphere. Straight trails were made by fortresses and curved trails leading upwards by the fighters. So look at those vapor trails, 1944. Next we have January 21st, 1944. Big bombers roaring out over the English Channel on their way to raid the submarine yards and docks at Bremen. They left in their wake trails of condensing vapor above the fleecy clouds. I mean, check it out, 1944. And then May 20th, 1944, we have, I saw a thin wisp of white vapor very high up. Invisible pinpoints at the ends of the vapor trails. Another mention of vapor trails. December 7th, 1944, we have a large bomber plane went over Craig last Friday afternoon and demonstrated the vapor trail that comes from the exhaust when the atmospheric conditions are just right. The plane was traveling from west to east, went over Craig, and left a cloud trail clear across the sky. The trail broadened after the plane had passed and hung in the sky for more than 2 hours. So this is 1944, and the vapor trail hung in the sky for more than 2 hours. This is nothing new, folks. January 7th, 1945. Vapor trail in the sky above as Allied planes engage enemy planes in a terrific dogfight. I mean, check out those vapor trails. 1945. January 20th, 1945. These flying fortresses leave vapor trails behind them, high above the clouds. Next we have December 7th, 1948, plane 4 miles up. An invisible plane drew a hard white chalk line across the blue sky and through the thin clouds, while far below people stared, wondered, and besieged the Weather Bureau. So phone callers choked the lines to the Weather Bureau for about an hour. Some who rang the advertiser were alarmed, but most were just curious. So South Australians were seeing something that became so commonplace in England during the war that people scarcely bothered to look up. White vapor trail which diffused after a while into a broad woolly streak. This is how he explained the phenomenon. What people saw was a condensation trail from a big plane flying at between 20,000 and 25,000 feet. At that level, the air was supersaturated, and owing to the pressure effect of the aircraft moving through the air, the temperature dropped enough to condense the water vapor into cloud. The trail of cloud was forming in the slipstream of the 4 motors. So again, another explanation in 1948, and we are somehow just rediscovering this in the year 2017. Next we have July 26, 1949. Fighter plane leaves vapor trail shortly before noon yesterday. A circular vapor trail made by a high-flying aircraft appeared in the sky over the city. An officer of the Royal Air Force stationed at Malala explained later that the trail had been left by a Mustang aircraft on a test flight at a little more than 20,000 feet. Such trails, formed by the passage of aircraft through the supersaturated air, were familiar sights over Britain and Europe during the war. They are rarely seen here because aircraft do not normally fly at heights where they form. Next we have January 25th, 1951. The long vapor trail over town Thursday morning was left by a high-flying jet plane. Practically nobody saw the plane since it was so high in the air, but the streets were full of onlookers after the vapor trail was spotted, so people were still amazed back then about seeing the trails in the skies. Next we have November 14th, 1952. Those who guessed airplane were right. The cloud was really a vapor trail left by a Vampire jet aircraft. It was just an ordinary flight, except that conditions made the vapor trail very conspicuous. So, very good. November 20th, 1952. What looks like the absent-minded doodling of a sky rider is a vapor trail left by a Vampire jet flown in exercises 36,000 feet above Melbourne last week. The trails are caused when friction made by the passage of the wings through the air raises the temperature around the aircraft and turns the water in the air into vapor. Next we have March 14th, 1953. Jet vapor trail illuminates sky. A long red streak in the western sky Friday caused a flood of telephone calls. The sheriff's office and police stations of the San Bernardino Valley. The streak was the vapor trail of a jet plane appearing red in the sunset. And then November 14th, 1953, mystery of the vapor trails in the sky. So people who watch modern planes at high altitudes are often intrigued by the vapor trail that seems to follow some planes and not others. Explanation of these phenomena, given by an RAAF spokesman, is that the vapor trails are concentrations of ice crystals formed by aircraft in two ways. Most common is from the engine exhaust. Moisture leaving the exhaust in the gases or in the jet tailpipe condenses as these gases cool. The minute drops of moisture freeze to form the beautiful frothy trail so often seen on a blue sky background. Temperature and moisture are the deciding factors. Vapor trails may also be caused when moisture in the air is shocked into condensation. Even at low altitude, short-duration trails may be formed in cool and damp air by the wings of a diving aircraft or by the propeller tips during run-ups on the ground. So next we have April 2nd, 1954. Vapor trail caused by a jet aircraft aroused much interest in the city and district on Wednesday morning. The Times received many phone calls from people in the city and outlying districts who had seen the trail. The trail first appeared at 10:30 a.m. and remained in the sky for about an hour. Next we have July 5th, 1954. Jet fighter leaves vapor trail. Then we have September 6th, 1954. Those aren't Ghost Riders, just contrary contrails. This is Hill Air Force Base, Utah. So we have contrails are just about the craziest things in the sky. Contrail is the military abbreviation for a condensation trail, sometimes known as a vapor trail. That's the little pencil-shaped cloud that trails behind high-flying airplanes under special conditions. Ground dwellers looking upward may think that the contrails indicate a pilot is trying his hand at skywriting, but that's far from the case. The trails form only in a comparatively narrow layer of air about 1,000 feet thick, where conditions of humidity and temperature are just right. Normally they never form below 20,000 feet because the air is too warm at low altitudes. Rarely do they occur over 40,000 feet because of lack of water vapor in the atmosphere at higher altitudes. Sometimes the pattern is spotty, differing sharply every few miles. So, of course, there's the spotty pattern that some people claim is proof of chemtrails, but again, they could just be pockets of different pressure, different moisture concentrations. Next we have June 5th, 1958. Remember when you'd look at the sky and see a cloud and it was a cloud? Now it's probably a vapor trail from a passing jet. So back in 1958, just when commercial air travel was beginning, they're already noticing that the vapor trails litter the sky. This is long before the chemtrail theory was put out there. We have January 31st, 1959. Air Force gives village 2 choices. Live with trails or move. This is great. Let's face it, man, said a crisp talking star-studded general. You will either have to live with the vapor trails or move the city of Palm Springs. So, again, they're addressing vapor trails. Vapor trails, he explained, are formed by the aerodynamic cooling or addition of water vapor over the maximum water content of the air in which the aircraft is flying. Then we have July 25th, 1968. Several times every day, a plane shoots across the sky, leaving its slim white vapor trail to complement the fluffy cloud formations. One time the vapor trail is horizontal, then one is painted against the blue in a sharp angle. Then lastly, we have March 8th, 1968. Hughes filmed a vapor trail left in the sky by a jet aircraft. By time-lapse photography, Hughes showed in 2 or 3 minutes what happened to the vapor, which actually took 2 or 3 hours to disappear from the atmosphere. So there you have it. Obviously, persistent contrails have been around since the invention of jet aircraft. Long ago, they dispelled all of the crazy myths and hysteria about the vapor trails. But apparently, subsequent generations forgot and were easy targets for the conspiracy theory, which started in about 1999. And before I move on, another example of atmospheric conditions causing condensation trails can be seen in rocket launches of all places. About a year ago, I noticed that some rocket launches do not leave any vapor trail. So I immediately thought of chemtrails and the airplane vapor trails. It also depends on the type of fuel used in these rockets. Solid fuel rockets, which include the space shuttle, always produce a white smoke trail. But the RP-1 kerosene, which is the Atlas V and the Falcon 9, will not leave an exhaust plume unless weather conditions are right. There will be periods where it will leave no trail, then leave a trail, and then none. It depends on the layers it goes through. And there's also the liquid hydrogen fuel, and that's used by the Delta IV rocket. And it combines with the oxidizer, liquid oxygen, to make mostly H2O in the form of water vapor. So if it's very dry out, there may not even be a visible trail for the Delta IV rockets. So check out these clips of Delta IV and Atlas launches and notice how they only leave vapor trails when they hit layers of atmosphere that are conducive to forming condensation trails. So again, we just cannot claim that when you see these vapor trails in the sky, and some planes leave them, some planes don't, that they're chemtrails. I mean, obviously when you hit certain layers of atmosphere or pockets of atmosphere, you get a trail, you don't get a trail, it depends on the moisture, the amount of water in the atmosphere. There are many other factors that can explain this. You do not need to jump to the scariest of all explanations, the crazy chemical theory. So, that leads us to where the chemtrail theory actually started, when and where. It seems like the earliest mention of chemtrail spraying dates back to 1998 emails from a John Grace, also known as Val or Valdemar Valerian. He's a UFO and alien conspiracy theorist who published several books. His cohort, John Lear, even admitted to faking documents to support arguments in one of the crazy books about aliens and the U.S. government. So he doesn't seem to have much credibility from what I can gather. Most likely he is the Air Force intelligence operative, the disinformation agent that many claim him to be. But regardless, the official kickoff of chemtrails was in 1999 by William Thomas. On January 25th, 1999, William Thomas was a guest on Art Bell's radio show to promote the chemtrail conspiracy theory. It basically took off from there. That was the main event. The website Chemtrail Central was registered on May 6, 2000, about a year after the chemtrail idea was created. The theory has been developed ever since into massive science fiction, with an entire industry arising to combat the harmful effects of the spraying. We have speaking tours, books, health products, It truly is amazing that no one stops to question the facts supporting chemtrails. At least no one in the conspiracy world seems willing to objectively analyze it. So, how could everyone so easily fall for the hoax when in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, people quickly realized that the scary white vapor trails were just a natural result of weather conditions and high-flying jets? It seems like people forgot about vapor trails in the 70s and 80s, and then when air traffic significantly increased in the 1990s, and with the massive propaganda machine, this generation was an easy target for the chemtrail conspiracy theory. Look at how much air traffic, look at how much it skyrocketed in the 1990s. People look at the sky, there's so many white lines, they say, "That's not natural, you're being sprayed." Even I tried to entertain the theory, but again, we have no direct proof of chemtrails other than pure fear propaganda. So let's quickly look at the effects of believing in the chemtrail conspiracy theory. Number 1, fear, anxiety, bad health, and overall negative mental state when you believe that you are being sprayed by planes with chemicals, metals, nanoparticles, blood, all kinds of crazy claims. Remember in my AIDS hoax video what Dr. Robert Wilner said would happen if a doctor tells you that you're dying, even if you are not really dying?
This is modern medical voodoo. If a doctor tells you you are going to die, I'm willing to bet you're going to die. I'll be the first one to put money on the line and say, the chances are you're going to beat the statistics. You will die because you've been told so. This is American voodoo.
So if you are going to believe in the fear, you better make sure that fear is well justified. The number 2 effect of believing in the chemtrail conspiracy theory. It could be a red herring. Chemtrails and their lack of proof can easily be used to discredit anyone who may be aware of the true conspiracies that are taking place, such as the NASA fraud, the banking system, the shape of the Earth, things that the average person can prove by direct observation, testing, logic, reason, and deduction. I can go to the beach and see hotels 20 miles away that I should not be able to see. I can use a gyroscope and confirm that there is no spin to the Earth. I can understand perspective and how it explains why we see what we see. I can use logic and deduction to destroy the outlandish claims by NASA, the horrible fake CGI footage they put out. Chemtrail theory, on the other hand, relies on pure speculation for the lingering white condensation trails left by some airplanes and not others, without any actual proof. I've shown in this video that there has been an alternative explanation since the 1920s for these white condensation trails. Blindly believing chemtrails is like looking up at the sun and believing NASA that it is a fiery nuclear furnace 93 million miles away. Chemtrails seem to be more of an endless rabbit hole of crazy claims and leaps of faith. Yet it would appear that chemtrails are a required part of the truth seeker's arsenal of conspiracies. Most people never do any actual research or critical thinking into the other side of chemtrails. In my opinion, chemtrails are like the spinning ball Earth for flat earthers. Everyone just accepts the chemtrail theory without question. It's like reverse cognitive dissonance for the truth community. Number 3, this could easily be a setup for future hoaxes by believing the government has more power and capabilities than it actually does. This would include aliens, weather warfare, so on and so forth. You are basically under their control. Chemtrails represent a sneaky little trap. If you believe in weather modification, then by definition you must believe in man-made global warming. You can't have it both ways. You can't say on one hand that the government is so powerful it can spray the planet, alter DNA, steer hurricanes, control the weather, and then on the other hand say that there is no global warming, that man couldn't possibly cause global warming. We can either control global weather and temperature, or we can't. You can't have it both ways. The fact is that None of these claims, such as chemtrails, global weather manipulation, black goo, blue goo, goo, nanobot spiders, altering DNA, none of these have been proven. Just because someone sounds technical or authoritative does not make what they are saying any more realistic. Remember the retro, proto, turbo encabulator?
Instrument that would not only provide inverse reactive current for use in unilateral phase detractors, but would also be capable of automatically synchronizing cardinal gram meters. That's right, it's finally here, the retro proto-turbo encabulator. Now basically the only new principle involved is that instead of power being generated by the relative motion of conductors and fluxes, it's produced by the modial interaction of magneto-reluctance and capacitive diractance. Now the original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two spurving bearings ran in direct line with the panometric fan. The lineup consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marsal vanes so fitted to the ambiphasant lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented.
Ridiculous, I know, but it shows how sounding technical and authoritative can fool lots of people. And a leaked or declassified document is not proof of anything.
It's a signed document. I guess if you have a signed document in your possession, you can't go wrong.
Heck, they have endless documentation proving the moon landing, but does that make it true? But they have patents, gee, and there are also patents for hiccup treatment and an interactive life-size bowl of soup. A patent filed in 1991 for cloud seeding doesn't prove that we are being poisoned from 40,000 feet. Documents, leaks, whistleblowers, these same proofs all exist for aliens, UFOs, Bigfoot, cloning centers. Again, by themselves, they do not prove anything. They are speculation. Massive fear, fear of being sprayed. You see, if you believe in chemtrails, you just may believe them when they say, North Korea sprayed a virus across your city. People love to believe in fear for some reason. Next, I would like to quickly address the soil samples that are touted as proof of chemtrails. So, let me get this straight. Someone takes a random soil sample with supposedly higher than average amounts of barium and aluminum, and then they make the massive leap of faith that these higher levels are caused by high-flying planes spraying chemicals. Based on these mystery soil samples, you are all going to be sick and your kids will have Down syndrome. Really? Has anyone stopped to think about this logically? Barium and aluminum occur naturally in the Earth's crust, in soils, in the atmosphere, and they are also components in many industrial applications. In fact, do you realize how much barium would have to be mined or extracted and processed to then be sprayed all over the Earth in a sufficient quantity to have the crazy negative health effects that are claimed? The surface area of America alone is 3.8 million square miles. That means that the volume of atmosphere over this area would be 26.6 million cubic miles. And we are afraid of chemicals falling from the sky? Talk about an inefficient delivery method. Even if there are higher than normal levels somewhere, that doesn't prove anything. Just that we have a bunch of hypochondriacs who think the sky is falling.
Run for your lives! Everyone run for cover! SOS! Mayday! Mayday! Code red, duck and cover! You're all in danger!
26.6 million cubic miles, and that's with a ceiling of 7 miles up. That is an insane volume. Good luck spraying anything useful into that volume. This also reminds me of the radiation hysteria. People are so easily scared by the invisible killer of radiation, and in this case, chemtrails, because you can't actually see it other than the white vapor trails, but then you believe that it dissipates and you're breathing in all these toxic chemicals.
Radiation. Yes, indeed. You hear the most outrageous lies about it. Half-baked gogglebox do-gooders telling everybody it's bad for you. Pernicious nonsense.
If you want something real, look at smog. Smog is a perfect example of real pollution. Pollution that you can see. Pollution that you feel yourself breathing in. Pollution that will, in fact, make you sick. Vapor trails in the sky are nothing like the smog that used to cover our cities. But it is a good distraction. Look up at the chemtrails as they dump crap into your small rivers and pump out smog in other areas. But in the end, in my opinion, the chemtrail fear is unjustified. So in summary, these are the 5 facts that I believe sufficiently counter the chemtrail conspiracy theory. Number 1, the long history of persistent vapor trails. These negate the main pillar of chemtrails, the so-called persistent contrails. You're being conned, all right, this time by the gatekeepers. Number 2, airplane traffic has significantly increased since the 1990s. Sure, skies were more blue in the past, but that is simply because there is a lot more traffic in the skies and at the altitudes where vapor trails will form. Number 3, declassified documents are not proof of chemtrails. Sorry, even Lucy had a signed document, but Charlie Brown should not have trusted her.
This time you can trust me. See? Here's a signed document, testifying that I promised not to pull it away.
Number 4, soil samples are a joke. Even if you could find higher than the supposed average levels of metals, there is no proof of cause and effect. The connection is made by fear. Number 5, volume of the atmosphere. To think that we could gather enough barium and aluminum to spray this area and spray this volume, and that this concentration would be harmful, is just absurd. However, the power of suggestion is quite powerful, and just like viruses, when someone gets sick and you say it's because they are being sprayed, people will believe you. So, if I were under the fear of the chemtrail theory, I would demand more concrete proof other than the lingering vapor trails that have been known since the 1920s. Anyways, that's my take on it. I hope I did not offend anybody with this video, but I am curious as to why there is so much blind support of chemtrails. So, thanks for watching, have no fear, and keep thinking. Adios, amigos.